What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here. Welcome back to another Code Vein build video, and as you can probably guess by looking at the massive greatsword in front of you, this is the strength build. Now, strength is actually pretty damn beefy in Code Vein, more than having respectable damage, which as you can see, it's not as high as a mage or a ranger, but more importantly, strength has a buttload of resilience, 3200 health. On top of that, if we hop on over into our defenses, you can see we got pretty respectable defenses across the board, and we have so much stamina that we can literally block any attack that's coming at us. So all in all, strength, it comes in as a very straightforward, very easy build to play that I think makes it an attractive option, especially to players that are less experienced in games like this. Now, jumping on into the build, first up we have our blood code, and we're running Atlas. Now, even though Atlas is one of the earliest blood codes you get, it is still, in my opinion, the best for a pure strength armory tank style build. Looking at some comparable choices here, we have Hades, which is a very endgame blood code, which has comparable stats, but you can see we're taking a pretty hefty hit to our health total here in exchange for a small increase in stamina and Ichor. A similar fashion, if we look at Warrior, you can see we have some increases in our gifts and increases in elemental resistances, but we're losing health, stamina, and defense. So all in all, Atlas is just a very solid go-to choice that is very well balanced around what we're trying to do. Moving on from there, let's talk about our gear. Now we are going to be running with the Sanguine Garb. I mean, you could run Silver Garb or the Sanguine Garb. It's really, this is the white and red. This one is black and purple. I think the red and black match my sword very nicely, which is why I prefer the Sanguine version. But anyway, the point is the modified Silver Garb here has excellent defense. Taking a look at some of the other common strength-oriented ones, the GXM I ran with for a good part of the walkthrough. We have pretty hefty drain attack on here, but as you can see, our defenses start to plummet a little bit. If we go for the GXH Assault, this is a big increase to our drain attack. We got that B strength scaling on it. But once again, look at our defense. We're losing 10 on slash, 11 on crush, 16 on blood, 29 on fire. I mean, yeah, it's good against lightning, but besides that, we are taking some hefty defensive hits. And because Greatsword is a playstyle where you are going to be up in the enemy's face, you're just going to be constantly dealing damage, trading blows. Ultimately, I feel the extra defense that you get in Sanguine Garb is going to pull you ahead of the alternative choices. As for our weapons, we are running with the Argent Wolf King's Blade. You're going to want fortification on everything, by the way, because weight is irrelevant here. But Argent Wolf King's Blade is hands down the best greatsword in the game. Looking at the other great swords that are fortified, you can see absolutely nothing can come close to the damage this thing is doing. As for our secondary, we're going to be running with the Blanched Greatsword. Now, you only have access to the Blanched Greatsword if you pre-ordered the game. If you didn't pre-order the game and you don't have it, I'd recommend either the Warped Blade or the Black Greatsword as a decent alternative. But the reason that the Blanched Greatsword is so good, so incredibly good, is that it deals crush damage. Now, the main difference between playing a sword or a hammer build is that swords are mainly slash, whereas hammers are mainly crush. But check this out, right? Our Blanched Greatsword does 1836 physical damage as crush. If we were to swap out this for hammer mastery and go to a hammer, the biggest hammer in the game, the Judgment, or Juggernaut Sledgehammer, we're still at only 1779. 1676. 1619. Think about that. It's ridiculous. A pre-order greatsword deals more crush damage than any hammer in the game. It's honestly a slap in the face to hammers. But anyway, so that's why you're going to want to have the Blanched Greatsword. If you don't have it, like I said, you can always switch up and run Hammer Mastery if you happen to run into an area where slash damage isn't working well. But in general, in a zone-by-zone basis, stuff is either going to be weaker to slash or weaker to crush. So just something to keep in mind. You can always, just go here, swap in hammer, and pull a hammer on out. Anyway, moving on into the passives. First up, Health Stimulant. No-brainer choice here. As you can see, it adds 419 health to us. Moving on from there, Stamina Stimulant. In a similar fashion, we're getting 41 stamina, which is a huge increase. This is just going to allow you to go through longer combos and still have the stamina you need to block. Moving down from there, Tirelessness, just an absolutely fantastic choice for a greatsword-oriented build. We use a lot of stamina on our swings. We also need stamina to block. This is going to ensure that we have the regen rate to do both comfortably without getting stamina broke. And lastly, two-handed sword mastery. Regardless of what weapon you use, you should almost always use the mastery for that weapon if you are doing a damage-oriented build. On something like a mage, this is irrelevant. On something that's a support build, it's irrelevant. But for a greatsword build or a quality build, even a bayonet build, 110% every time you want weapon mastery. Moving on into our other skills. Our bottom tree is going to be pretty straightforward here. As you can see, I have blood weapon, flame weapon, frost weapon, and lightning weapon. Now, while you can stack these buffs, I would not recommend doing that. The main point of having all 4 of these on is just so that as you progress through a zone at any given time, you can pull on the buff that your target is going to be weak to. Aside from that, you don't really need much with a greatsword build, which is why I think it's great to just have those buffs on demand. Looking at our more important skills, first up, we're going to have adrenaline. This is a attack boost. It's going to last, I want to say it's like a minute long, a minute 90 seconds, something like that. Just a very solid choice to go to, especially because of how long it lasts. Moving on from there, guard reversal. This move, oh god, I love guard reversal. The way guard reversal works is you essentially pop this, you hold up to block, something hits you, and it automatically goes into a down staggered state. Now, of course, this isn't going to work on everything in the game. It's not going to work on all the bosses or some of the more gigantic enemies, but pretty much anything else, like all those annoying-ass knights that like teleporting and swinging swords, oh, it works on them, and then you clap their cheeks while they're sitting there staggered. Moving on from there, Legion Punisher, a very, very solid ability, which actually gives us both range and AoE with the greatsword. And then lastly, we have Dragon Lunge, which is just our on-demand big smash damage. Now, just to kind of show off some stuff here, as you can see, a base hit is 2071. With Adrenaline up, that goes up to 2278. Taking a look at the slash, you want to stand back a little bit, throw it. As you can see, big damage on that. But there is a positional requirement on that. You know, if I do it close up like this, you can see how the second hit completely whiffed, so just keep that in mind while you're using that ability. And then our final one, the big sword smash. This is just a solid go-to choice. You can't... Damn it. Got that it costs 6 Iker. But you can't go wrong with this thing. It's just on demand. It'll knock something up, and then you'll get a big fat come down as you hit the enemy. Now, one thing I want to touch on is one alternative passive that I really did enjoy, but ultimately I decided against it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is... wherever it went. It's hiding from me now. Of course, the second I want to show it off, it's like, no, don't. I don't want people to see me. You rejected me. Impact Wave. Now, Impact Wave is a big damage increase. 2071. 2707. And you might be like, whoa, that's stupid damage. Why aren't you using that? And while it is great, for one, it is only going to help your basic attacks. As you can see, it's those big explosions that are coming off every other attack. That is what is making your damage value go so high. But that damage is not going to impact these at all. So both of your abilities aren't going to get buffed by it. And more importantly, as you saw, it just doesn't last that long. It really doesn't. The buff is maybe 15 to 20 seconds. And while it is a big damage increase, and it does seem really attractive at first, ultimately, I decided that I was going to be a lot better off just working with Adrenaline, because Adrenaline, you essentially just fire and forget. I mean, look at the timer ticking down on this thing. It lasts seemingly forever, whereas the other one lasts for like 15, 20 seconds. And I'm not trying to be sitting here rebuffing in the middle of the fight constantly. So if you want the extra damage, it is an option. It is powerful. But in terms of just all-out sustain, I think you're going to be better off with Adrenaline. You can actually stack both abilities, which gets pretty goofy. Just to show that off, let me put her back on here. Where did you go? I'm always losing you. Why do you hide from me? Why do you hide? There you are. Both on. It's pretty silly, right? But anyway, like I said, kind of a short duration buff. You can see, I mean, we had all that time to talk, find the ability, put it on, and it's still going to run out before Adrenaline is even through half of the available buff time for it. It's just ridiculous, man. And there are some things you can run that would increase the duration of this, but ultimately, I don't feel it's going to be worth it, especially because we're already kind of blood dry for Iker as it is. Some last things I want to touch on with this build and these particular weapons. The Argent Wolf Greatsword has a unique heavy attack, as well as a unique heavy charge. And then the Blanched Greatsword has a big old darkness energy smash thing that happens when you attack with it. So all in all, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward build. You know, you're going to block any damage that comes your way. Anything that you can't block, you're just going to smash on through. You're going to be using this bad boy to create a shield to stagger enemies and then promptly smash them. And that's really all there is to it. So let's take this thing down into the depths and show you what it can do. Now, as for our run, we're going to be heading down into the depths as always. Similar to the last video, we are at a level of 120. It's going to be the baseline on all these builds. And the last thing I want to touch on is Mia. Now, for the Greatsword, I find Mia to be a fantastic companion, mainly because she makes up your biggest weakness, which is going to be a lack of ranged damage. Anytime you're up against small little annoying shits like this guy, Mia will be able to get it if for some reason that thing's jumping and dodging your Greatsword. As you can see, very, very straightforward playstyle. We literally just smash anything that we come up against. There's not much else to it. You know, Adrenaline will stay up for a pretty long time. If you want to get off a block attack, you can go for that. As long as you time it right, you have that buff up, you'll get a stagger, and then from that stagger, you can go on into a free combo, which is pretty nasty. So, put it up here to kind of show you how that works. They didn't take long, but they're only mini bosses, so let's go fight the main thing here. Give you an idea of what kind of potency we have. Now, as for our block breaker, you can do that on pretty much anything that isn't using like an ultra size weapon. So the big old ladies that have a hammer, it's usually not going to work on them. Something like the final boss, it's not going to work on, obviously, but anything that is a knight or an enemy that is a similar size to you, you will be able to essentially get a free counterattack with that. And what I like doing personally with it is putting that up, getting a block, and then going straight into my Dragon Smash, because it's like a free 10,000 damage. So let's go on in and fight the big boy. Now, if you're worried about Mia, you could of course put on a heal buff for her. I don't think it's really needed. I mean, if she goes down, she goes down. That's kind of how I look at it. No idea how that actually hurt me, considering you went the opposite direction. That's the stagger from my block going off. Pretty ridiculous. You can see, even without Mia, doesn't matter. You just block and clap cheeks, and the counter block, obviously, just absolutely goofy. I mean, even against big guys like this, he would just hit me, fall down, hit me, fall down. It's honestly pretty ridiculous. So anyway, that is going to wrap things up for the strength build. Up next, I will have a bayonet-oriented gunner-style build for you guys, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Otherwise, thanks for coming on by, and I'll catch you next time.